You're probably watching this from the toilet, but nonetheless, welcome back. And if you're new, I tell stories to those people who love to take bathroom breaks at work. Anyway, we all know what DWI stands for, but today's story would be about KWI, killing while intoxicated. So let's get right into it. Right off the top, I'm gonna tell you guys that I'm going to be butchering a few names, so bear with me. So this story takes place in Loftahammar, Sweden, sometime in September of 2008. Agneta Westland took her dog out for a stroll, but she never returned home. And her husband, Ingemar, went out to look for her, and he actually found her body in the woods. Immediately he left the woods, he went to call the authorities. When the authorities got to him, he took the authorities and led them to her body. As in any other homicide case, the victim's significant other usually lands at the top of the suspect list. Ingemar was no different. He immediately was arrested and was charged with the murder of his wife, to which he denied everything and proclaimed his innocence. Ingemar would spend 10 days in jail before he was released, but just because he was released, it does not mean that he was home free and the case was far from solved. He was on the suspect list for an additional 6 months. During those 6 months, Ingemar slowly became an outcast in his own community. No one really wanted anything to do with him. But that wasn't the most painful thing that Ingemar had to go through, because aside from grieving for his wife, Ingemar had to attend his wife's funeral with his children emotionally alone. People who cared about Agneta, they were all physically there, but in the back of their minds, they all thought that Ingemar was the killer and that he was just attending the funeral to put up a show to show his innocence. But fortunately for Ingemar, eventually the police would drop all charges against him because they have found a new suspect. 6 months ago, when Agneta's body was recovered, police actually found fur on her body. Initially, police thought that the fur belonged to dogs, but upon further investigation on the fur as well as a saliva sample collected from the body, they have concluded that it came from European elk, which we call moose. An adult male moose generally weigh about 1,200 to 1,600 pounds, whereas an adult female moose would generally weigh somewhere between 800 to 1,200 pounds. These creatures were not normally known to be harmful to humans, as they would typically avoid any kind of confrontation, but reports have shown that they could get violent if they were provoked. With that, this was what authorities thought to have happened to Agneta the day in September 2008 when she took her dog out for a walk in the woods. So while Agneta was taking her dog for a walk, she came across an elk that was eating apples. And the apples must have undergone some kind of fermentation, which caused the elk to be in a drunken state. And while the elk was in a drunken state, Agneta's dog must have gone through defensive mode, primarily to protect its owner, and provoked the elk. The elk must have gotten agitated and attacked Agneta and killed her. Ingemar subsequently filed a lawsuit against the authorities. The family dog was never found, and as for the elk, if it is still alive today, it will be somewhere out there, large and at large. Thank you all for watching this short story once again, and if you like contents like this, please wipe your butt and get back to work.